Introduction. The steward's inner conflict. Do you ever feel it? That quiet, grinding conflict deep within you. On one hand, your soul yearns for meaning, for connection, for a life of purpose and spiritual integrity. On the other, the world demands practicality. It demands that you manage money, build wealth, and secure your future. And in the space between those two worlds, a feeling of guilt begins to grow. A sense that managing your finances is somehow a betrayal of your spiritual values. That wanting more is materialistic. That focusing on spreadsheets and investments is a distraction from your true path. That conflict, that single point of friction, is the very thing stopping you from embodying the limitless abundance that is your birthright. Let's resolve it together. What you are about to experience is not another financial audiobook. It is an alchemical map, a guide to transforming your relationship with money from one of stress, guilt, and confusion into a sacred practice of conscious stewardship. This is for the spiritual entrepreneur, the conscious creator, the soulful professional who knows deep down that their wealth and their worthiness are meant to walk hand in hand. Over the course of our journey today, we will explore 12 foundational principles, 12 alchemical keys designed to dissolve the illusion that separates the sacred from the secular, the spiritual from the financial. You will learn not just how to manage money, but how to commune with it as a form of energy. You will discover practical rituals that turn budgeting into a sacred act and investing into a vote for the future you desire. This is the work of becoming the steward your wealth has been waiting for. A steward who is calm, powerful, deserving, and aligned. So find a quiet space, allow yourself to be present, and let us begin this transformation. Principle 1. Money is a mirror of consciousness. Let us begin with the most fundamental principle, the bedrock upon which all other understanding is built. It is this: money is not paper. It is not metal, nor is it a number on a screen. At its core, money is a mirror. It is a neutral, powerful, and unfailingly honest reflection of your inner state of consciousness, your bank account, your debts, your income, your financial opportunities. They are not external circumstances happening to you. They are physical manifestations of the beliefs, emotions, and energetic frequencies that you hold within you. They are the result of the stories you tell yourself about worthiness, deservingness, safety, and possibility. And I know this might challenge everything you've been taught. Society trains us to see money as an external force to be chased, fought for, and accumulated. We are told to work harder, to hustle, to climb a ladder that exists outside of ourselves. But this is the great illusion. Chasing money is like a dog chasing its own tail. The real work, the alchemical work, is not external. It is an internal transformation. I remember speaking with a client, a brilliant artist named Clara. On paper, she did everything right. She had a business plan. She marketed her work. She even had a budget. But her financial life was a constant struggle, a cycle of feast and famine that left her exhausted and resentful. She felt like she was pushing a boulder uphill, and for every step forward, she would slide 2 steps back. We talked for hours, not about her budget or her marketing, but about her childhood. She told me a story about being a little girl, proudly showing her father a painting she had made. Her father, a practical man who had struggled through hardship, glanced at it and said, "That's nice, dear, but you can't make a living from paint and paper." He didn't mean to be cruel. He was projecting his own fears, his own story of scarcity. But for that little girl, a powerful subconscious belief was forged. My passion and my survival are in conflict. For decades, that single belief silently governed every financial decision she made. She would sabotage opportunities right as they were about to succeed. She would feel immense guilt when she was paid well for her art, and would quickly find a way to get rid of the money, an unexpected bill, a bad investment, a sudden need to help a family member. Her external financial reality was a perfect mirror of her internal unresolved conflict. The money wasn't the problem. The story was the problem. So how does this mirror work? It operates through the principle of resonance. The universe does not give you what you want. It gives you what you are. It responds to your dominant vibrational frequency. If your consciousness is saturated with feelings of unworthiness, guilt, and a fear of lack, you will resonate with circumstances that validate those feelings. You will attract clients who haggle over your prices. You'll encounter unexpected expenses that drain your savings, and you'll overlook opportunities that are right in front of you. Your energy is essentially repelling the very thing you claim to desire. Conversely, when you do the inner work to cultivate a consciousness of abundance, worthiness, and trust, you begin to resonate with a different reality. This isn't about thinking positive and hoping for the best. It's far deeper than that. It is the alchemical process of transmuting the lead of your limiting beliefs into the gold of an embodied truth. It's about feeling deep in your bones that you are deserving of wealth, that money is a natural and beautiful expression of the value you contribute to the world. Let's try a small thought experiment. Imagine your financial life as a garden. The thoughts and beliefs you hold in your subconscious mind are the seeds. The emotions you feel about money, fear, anxiety, joy, gratitude, are the water and the sunlight. The physical money and assets that show up in your life are the harvest. For years, you may have been trying to force a better harvest. You've been running around the garden, yelling at the plants to grow faster, trying to tie fruit onto barren branches. But you haven't been tending to the soil. You haven't been planting the right seeds. Clara was planting seeds of "I'm not allowed to thrive from my passion," and was then confused. When her garden produced weeds of financial struggle, the work of a conscious steward is to become a master gardener of the mind. It is to courageously pull out the weeds of old programming. Beliefs like, money is the root of all evil. Spiritual people should be poor. You have to work hard and suffer to make money. I'm not good with money. Wanting more is selfish. Each of these is a seed of lack. And if they exist in the soil of your consciousness, your financial reality will mirror them back to you with perfect, unwavering accuracy. Your money is not judging you. It is simply reflecting you. So the first act of sacred stewardship is not to create a budget or open an investment account. It is to take a radical, honest inventory of your inner world. To sit quietly and ask yourself, what do I truly believe about money? When I think about my bank account, what is the first feeling that arises in my body? Is it a clenching in my stomach, a tightness in my chest? Or is it a feeling of openness, of peace, of possibility? Be the alchemist. Observe the reflection in the mirror of your finances without judgment. Do not blame the mirror for what it shows. Instead, see it as a diagnostic tool. It is your most powerful guide, pointing you directly to the inner work that needs to be done. If the reflection shows scarcity, it is inviting you to heal your relationship with lack. If it shows chaos, it is inviting you to cultivate inner order and clarity. If it shows guilt, it is inviting you to practice forgiveness and embrace deservingness. This is the first and most vital principle. Your wealth is not out there. It is in here. And the moment you stop chasing the reflection and begin to transform the source, your entire world will begin to shift. The mirror cannot help but reflect the new, abundant consciousness you have chosen to embody. This is not magic. This is the law of resonance. This is the foundation of all spiritual finance. Principle 2. The myth of sacred versus secular wealth. If the first principle, that money is a mirror of consciousness, felt like a revelation, then this second principle may feel like a rebellion. It is a rebellion against one of the most pervasive and damaging illusions embedded in the collective human psyche. It is the myth of separation. The myth that divides the world into two distinct categories, the sacred and the secular, the spiritual and the material. In this myth, prayer, meditation, and acts of service are placed in the sacred box. They are seen as pure, worthy, and elevated. And in the other box, the secular box, we place business, commerce, and money. These are often viewed as tainted, necessary evils at best, and greedy, corrupting forces at worst. It's the subtle, pervasive idea that to be close to God, to spirit, to the universe, you must be distant from gold. This is a lie. It is a deeply programmed illusion that has caused more suffering, struggle, and inner conflict for spiritual seekers than perhaps any other belief. It forces you into an impossible choice. You can either honor your soul, or you can build a life of financial stability. But you cannot do both. If this idea makes you uncomfortable, good. That means we're touching on a truth that needs to be healed. Let's be clear. This myth is not your fault. It has been woven into the fabric of our cultures for centuries. It comes from misinterpretations of ancient texts, from historical systems that used poverty as a means of control, and from a collective guilt that has been passed down through generations. We have been taught to see a division where, in reality, none exists. Spirit is not separate from the material world. The material world is an expression of spirit. The tree is no less sacred than the sunlight that feeds it. The river is no less sacred than the rain that forms it. And the money that flows through your life is no less sacred than the energy, talent, and service you exchange for it. I once worked with a man, let's call him Marcus. He was a gifted energy healer, one of those rare people whose very presence was calming. His hands could soothe the deepest aches, and his intuition was remarkably sharp. He was living his purpose, and yet he was constantly on the verge of financial collapse. His rent was always a source of quiet panic, and he felt a deep, agonizing shame about it. During one of our sessions, he confessed to me, his voice barely a whisper, "Elias, it feels wrong to charge people for healing. When someone comes to me in pain, my heart just wants to help. The moment I have to ask for money, I feel dirty, like I'm profiting from their suffering. Do you see the trap?" Marcus had built a wall between his sacred gift and his secular need to survive. His spiritual work was on one side, and the energy of money was on the other, and he believed they could never touch without contaminating each other. I asked him to reframe it. "Marcus," I said, "what did it take for you to be here in this room, able to offer this gift?" We started to list it out. Years of training and certifications, thousands of hours of practice. The cost of the room we were sitting in, the massage table, the oils, the food that gave him the physical energy to do his work, the time he spent not with his family but in study. His eyes widened as he began to understand. The money he asked for wasn't a price tag on a person's pain. It was an energetic exchange to honor the immense life force, time, and dedication he had poured into his craft. It was the energy that allowed the entire sacred container of his practice to exist. Without that energy, his gift would wither. He couldn't serve anyone if he couldn't afford to keep the lights on. Here is the alchemical truth you must integrate. Money is condensed life force energy. That's it. It is not good or evil. It is a neutral conductor, a current. It is a physical symbol representing the value of human energy. Our time, our creativity, our skills, our labor, our willingness to solve a problem for someone else. When you receive money, you are receiving the condensed energy of another person's life, given to you in exchange for the value your life force has provided. When you begin to see money this way, the entire dynamic shifts. The swipe of a credit card, the folding of a bill, the click of a buy now button, these are not merely commercial transactions. They are rituals of energy exchange. To break free from the myth of separation, you must begin to practice the art of unification. You must consciously dissolve the wall between the sacred and the secular in your own mind. And you can begin with two simple yet profound practices. First, redefine how you view your work. You are not just a coach, a writer, an artist, a consultant, or an entrepreneur. You are a channel for a specific form of value to flow into the world. Your service, your product, your art, it is a solution, a transformation, a moment of joy or relief for another soul. The money you receive is simply the universe's way of saying thank you in a language that allows you to continue your work. When you set your prices, you are not defining your personal worth. You are placing a value on the transformation you provide and honoring the energy required to deliver it. Second, begin the practice of blessing your money. This is a powerful ritual of consciousness. When money comes into your life, whether it's your paycheck, a payment from a client, or a $20 bill you find on the street, take a moment. Hold it in your hands or visualize it in your account and say, I bless this energy. Thank you for flowing to me. May it serve my highest good and the good of all. And just as importantly, when money flows out of your life, when you pay a bill, buy groceries, or invest in your business, do the same. As you release it, say, I bless this energy as it leaves. Thank you for the value I am receiving. May it circulate, prosper, and bless everyone it touches. Do you feel the shift in that? You move from a consciousness of lack and loss, oh no, I have to spend this money, to a consciousness of circulation and gratitude. I am a channel for this energy to flow through, creating value at every point. You cease to be a dam, hoarding resources in fear, and you become a river, allowing the current of abundance to flow through you, nourishing both you and the entire ecosystem around you. The universe does not operate on a system of sacred and secular. That is a human invention. The universe operates on a system of energy, frequency, and flow. All energy is sacred because all energy originates from the one divine source. Your task as a conscious steward is to treat it as such, to see the divinity in a dollar as clearly as you see it in a prayer. When you do this, the inner conflict begins to dissolve. The guilt subsides. You understand that building wealth is not a materialistic pursuit. It is a spiritual responsibility. It is the act of gathering enough resource, enough condensed life force to amplify your purpose and make your greatest contribution to the healing of the world. But dismantling an ancient myth is one thing. Healing the personal wounds it has inflicted, the shame, the guilt, the regret, that requires a different kind of alchemy. And that is precisely where our next principle begins. The principle of the forgiveness ledger. Principle 3, the forgiveness ledger, releasing money. Shame, let us speak now of the ghosts of financial decisions past, the ghost of the business that failed, the ghost of the investment that turned to dust, the ghost of that credit card debt you racked up in your 20s, a decision made by a version of you that you barely recognize anymore. These are not just memories. They are active, energetic anchors. They are heavy, invisible chains that you drag into your present moment, and they prevent you from moving freely into your abundant future. Every time you think about taking a positive financial step, these ghosts whisper in your ear. They remind you of your failures. They tell you that you're not to be trusted with money, that you'll only mess it up again. This feeling, this haunting, has a name. It is money shame. It's the hot flush that comes when someone asks a question about your finances you don't want to answer. It's the habit of quickly closing the banking app on your phone if someone is standing behind you. It is the quiet, gnawing voice of a relentless inner critic that replays your perceived mistakes on a loop, ensuring you never forget the time you were foolish, naive, or irresponsible. And here is the crucial truth. You cannot build a future of prosperity on a foundation of shame. It's like trying to build a beautiful home on a toxic waste dump. The foundation itself is poisoned, and anything you build upon it will eventually become unstable and sick. So, what is the alchemy for this? How do we transmute the dense, heavy lead of shame and regret into the light, free gold of a clean slate? We do it through a sacred practice I call the forgiveness ledger. This is not a mere intellectual exercise. This is a deep, energetic ritual. It requires courage, honesty, and a willingness to face the shadows you have spent years avoiding. But I promise you, on the other side of this practice is a freedom you may not have felt in a very long time. Here is how you begin. Find a time and space where you will not be disturbed. Take a physical notebook, a pen, and find a safe place where you can later burn a piece of paper, a fireplace, a fire pit, or a fire-safe bowl. The physical act is critical. Your subconscious mind responds to ritual and symbol, and we are performing a powerful symbolic act of release. On a clean page in your notebook, draw a line down the middle. On the left side, write the heading, the energetic debt. On the right side, write the alchemical gold. Now take a deep breath. Under the energetic debt column, you're going to begin to list every financial memory that carries the sting of shame, guilt, or regret. You must be radically honest. Do not soften the language. Do not skim over the details. Write it all down. For example, the $7,000 I lost on that cryptocurrency gamble in 2021. The 5 years I spent under-earning because I was too afraid to ask for a raise. The secret credit card I hid from my partner, lending money to a friend that I knew I would never get back. And the resentment I still carry, the shame of having my card declined at the grocery store. And if your hand trembles as you write, let it. If tears begin to fall, let them. That is the energy beginning to move. That is the poison coming to the surface to be healed. I remember a client, a powerful man named Jonathan, who had built and lost a successful company. He was haunted by it. He saw himself as a failure, and though he had plenty of new ideas, he was paralyzed. When we did this exercise, he wrote down the name of his old company and the amount of money he'd lost. He stared at it for a long time, and then he said to me, "I've been running from this number for a decade." Seeing it here, in my own handwriting, it's terrifying, but it also feels real, like I can finally stop running. That is the first step, naming the ghost, making it real, so you can finally face it. Once you have written down everything you can think of, and this may take some time, be patient with yourself. You move to the second part of the ritual. For each energetic debt you have listed, you must now find the alchemical gold. This is the wisdom, the lesson, the strength that was forged in the fire of that experience. This requires a profound shift in perspective, from victim to alchemist. Next to the $7,000 lost on crypto, you might write, "The invaluable lesson to never again invest out of FOMO, fear of missing out. The gold of due diligence and patience." Next to "too afraid to ask for a raise," you could write, "The deep understanding of my own worth that this pain has now forced me to cultivate." The gold of self-advocacy. Next to the secret credit card, you might write, "The powerful lesson about financial transparency and intimacy." The gold of honest communication. You see the alchemy. You are not excusing the past. You are honoring it. You are acknowledging that even your most painful mistakes contained a seed of wisdom. You are harvesting the gold from the lead. Now for the final, most powerful step, you will take a new, separate piece of paper. On this paper, you will write down only the items from the energetic debt column, just the list of shame and regret. Take this paper to your safe space. Read each item on the list out loud one last time. And as you read each one, you will speak these words, or words that feel true to you, directed at the younger version of yourself who made that decision. I see you. I see the fear you were in. I see the naivety, the hope, the desperation. You were doing the best you could with the knowledge and the tools you had at the time. You did not know then what I know now. And for that, I forgive you completely. I release you from this debt. I release this story. It is done. Then you will safely set that piece of paper on fire. As you watch the paper curl, turn black, and dissolve into ash, you are to visualize the energetic weight of these stories lifting from your shoulders. See the chains turning to smoke. Feel the ghosts dissolving into the light. This is not just paper burning. It is a declaration to the universe that you are no longer available for this story of shame. You are choosing a new story. When it is done, take the ashes and release them to the wind, or bury them in the earth. The cycle is complete. The transmutation is finished. This practice clears your energetic field. It cleans the mirror of your consciousness from the smudges of the past. It creates a vacuum, an open space in your life where new, more abundant realities can finally begin to flow in. But with this newfound space, how do we choose to act? Do we fill it with the same old patterns of frantic effort and anxious pushing that likely led to some of those past mistakes? Or do we learn to move in a new, more powerful and aligned way? This brings us directly to our fourth principle, the critical difference between inspired action and anxious hustle. Principle 4. Inspired action over anxious hustle. We live in a world that worships the grind. A culture that glorifies the hustle. We are bombarded with messages that equate success with exhaustion. Rise and grind. Team no sleep. Crush it. The underlying belief is that the path to wealth is paved with relentless, forceful, and often frantic effort. This is the energy of the anxious hustle. It is a masculine, outward-facing, forceful energy. It comes from a place of fear, the fear that if you stop moving, stop pushing, stop striving, everything will fall apart. It is the belief that you must make things happen, that you must wrestle your desires into submission. Anxious hustle feels like pushing a massive boulder up a steep hill. It's draining, exhausting, and unsustainable. You might make progress, yes. Many people build entire careers on this energy alone. But the cost is immense. Burnout, compromised health, strained relationships, and a persistent, quiet feeling that you are running a race with no finish line. It is a pursuit of abundance from a consciousness of lack. It is a scream into the void, hoping for an echo. Now let's contrast this with another way of being, a way of creating and moving that is just as powerful, if not more so, but feels entirely different. This is the energy of inspired action. Inspired action is the counterbalance. It is a feminine, inward-listening, receptive energy. It does not come from fear. It comes from a place of trust, alignment, and resonance. It is the belief that you are a co-creator with the universe, and your primary role is not to force but to listen, to align, and then to act on the intuitive nudges and clear signals you receive. Inspired action feels like riding a powerful wave. The energy is not yours alone. You are harnessing a force much greater than your own effort. It feels energizing, magnetic, and often effortless. Things fall into place. The right people show up. Synchronicities abound. This is the art of creating abundance from a consciousness of sufficiency. It is a confident whisper that the universe hears perfectly. I have a friend, a very successful software developer, who embodies this principle. For years, he was the king of the hustle. 16-hour days, fueled by caffeine and ambition. He made a lot of money, but he was miserable, and his creativity had dried up. He was on the verge of total burnout. Then he made a radical change. He committed to starting every single workday, not by opening his email, but with an hour of silent meditation. No agenda, no goal, just sitting, just listening. At first, it was torture for his overactive mind. But slowly, things began to shift. During one of these meditations, a completely new, elegant solution to a coding problem he'd been wrestling with for weeks just appeared in his mind. It was fully formed, a gift. He went to his computer, and in 2 hours, he implemented what weeks of frantic hustling could not solve. He began to live by a new rule. He would only work on the projects that came to him with that feeling of clear, energetic yes. He started saying no to lucrative but draining clients. He started taking walks in the middle of the day whenever he felt stuck. His income didn't just stabilize, it doubled, and he was working half the hours. He hadn't stopped taking action. He had stopped taking misaligned action. He had traded the brute force of the hustle for the potent precision of inspiration. So how do you, as a conscious steward, learn to distinguish between the two? How do you cultivate this ability to listen and act from inspiration? It requires developing a new kind of sensory awareness. It's about learning to feel the energetic texture of a decision. Anxious hustle feels contractive. It makes your body tense. Your jaw might clench, your shoulders tighten. It's often accompanied by a mental soundtrack of, I should, I have to, or what if I don't? It is driven by the mind's incessant need for control and its fear of the unknown. When you're in hustle mode, you're looking for proof before you're willing to trust. Inspired action, on the other hand, feels expansive. It creates a sense of openness in your body, particularly in your chest and your gut. It feels like a quiet yes, a gentle pull, a sense of rightness, or even a spark of excitement. It doesn't always have a logical explanation. The mind might even argue against it. That's too risky. That doesn't make sense. But the body, your intuitive compass, knows. When you are in a state of inspiration, you are willing to trust before you have all the proof. Here is your practice. Before you take any significant action in your business or financial life, before you send that important email, make that investment, or launch that new project, pause. Close your eyes. Take 3 deep breaths, allowing your body to settle. Bring the potential action into your mind's eye, and then ask your body a simple question. Does this feel expansive or contractive? Don't think about the answer. Feel it. Does the thought of it create a subtle sense of lightness, of opening, of forward momentum? That is the signature of inspired action. Or does it create a subtle tightening, a feeling of dread, a sense of pushing against a current? That is the signature of anxious hustle. Your body knows the difference. Your only job is to learn to listen to its wisdom and have the courage to honor what it tells you. This is a radical act of self-trust. It means being willing to sit and do nothing when inspiration is not present, trusting that this period of stillness is just as productive as a period of action. It is the fallow season that allows for a bountiful spring. When you commit to this path, you step off the hamster wheel of endless effort. You begin to work in concert with the universe, not against it. You achieve more by doing less. Your actions become potent and effective because they are backed by the full force of your aligned energy. Now, once you've acted from this inspired place and the energy of abundance begins to flow, the next principle becomes paramount. How do you hold and manage this sacred energy? How do you create a container for your wealth that feels as sacred as the work you do to create it? This brings us to the 5th principle, the creation of your financial sanctuary. Principle 5, your financial sanctuary. The ritual of management. For so many of us, the very act of managing our money is steeped in fear. The thought of opening the banking app, of looking at a spreadsheet, of confronting the numbers, triggers an immediate and visceral stress response. The heart beats a little faster, the stomach clenches. So we avoid it. We let the unopened envelopes pile up. We tell ourselves we'll deal with it later, and we live in a state of willful ignorance, hoping that what we don't see can't hurt us. But this avoidance creates a chaotic and fearful, energetic container for our wealth. Imagine if you treated your home this way. Never cleaning, never organizing, never taking stock of what you have, stuffing things into closets and dreading the day you have to open them. Would you feel peaceful, powerful, and prosperous in such a space? Of course not. You would feel anxious and out of control. Your financial life is an energetic home, and it is time to stop treating it like a haunted house you're afraid to enter. It is time to transform it into a sanctuary. The 5th principle of sacred stewardship is this. You must transform the act of financial management from a dreaded chore into a beautiful and empowering ritual. I worked with a woman, an incredibly talented graphic designer, who confessed to me that she hadn't willfully looked at her credit card statement in over a year. She had it on autopay, and she was simply too terrified to see the total. The shame was a physical weight on her. "It's a monster in the closet, Elias," she told me, "and I'm afraid that if I open the door it will devour me." I understood completely, and I know many of you listening feel that same dread. It's okay. That fear is a signal that this part of your life is desperate for loving, conscious attention. So I proposed something radical to her. I asked her not to create a budget. Not yet. I asked her to create a ceremony. I called it her sacred money date. Once a week, every Sunday evening, she was to create a beautiful, calming environment. She would light her favorite candle, make a cup of herbal tea, and put on soft, meditative music. She was forbidden from using the harsh overhead light in her office. Only the warm glow of a lamp was allowed. Her laptop was placed in the center of her desk, and before she opened it, she was instructed to close her eyes, place a hand on her heart, and say out loud, "I am willing to look at my financial life with love, courage, and compassion. I'm safe." Only then would she open her accounts. Her only task for the first few weeks was simply to look, to breathe, to witness the numbers without judgment, not to fix, not to solve, just to be present with what is. She was to track the flow of energy, noting where it came in and where it went out, using the language of gratitude. "Thank you for the energy that allowed me to buy nourishing food. Thank you for the energy that kept a roof over my head." The change was not immediate, but it was profound. Within a month, the terror had subsided. It was replaced by a sense of calm competence. She started to see patterns. She saw where energy was leaking unconsciously. Because she was no longer in a state of fear, she could see clearly. She started making small, empowered changes, not from a place of panicked restriction, but from a place of loving stewardship. She was no longer battling a monster. She was tending to her sacred garden. This is the practice I invite you to adopt. Create your own financial sanctuary, your own sacred money date. It could be weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly, but it must be consistent. Make it a non-negotiable appointment with your own prosperity. During this ritual, you are not just a bookkeeper. You are the high priest or priestess of your own financial temple. Your spreadsheet is an altar. Your bank statement is a sacred text that reveals the story of your energy. You are not just paying bills. You are consciously directing the flow of life force to honor your commitments and sustain your life. This ritual reframes the entire experience. It communicates to your subconscious mind and to the universe that you are no longer afraid of this energy. You are ready and willing to be a responsible, loving, and powerful steward. You are demonstrating that you can be trusted with more, because you are honoring what you already have. And as you become a more conscious steward of the energy flowing through your life, the next question naturally arises: how do we direct that flow in a way that aligns with our deepest truths? This is the heart of our sixth principle, the resonance of soul-aligned spending. Principle 6. The resonance of soul-aligned spending every single day. You cast dozens, perhaps hundreds of energetic votes. You cast them not in a ballot box, but with your wallet. Every dollar you spend is a declaration. It is a powerful statement to the universe that says, I support this. I want more of this in the world. When you buy cheap, mass-produced coffee, you are casting a vote for a specific system of agriculture and labor. When you choose to buy from the local farmer's market instead, you are casting a completely different vote. A vote for your local community, for sustainable practices, for a direct human connection. Neither is morally wrong, but they carry vastly different energetic signatures. They are born from different levels of consciousness. The sixth principle of sacred stewardship is to recognize that your spending is not a passive act of consumption, but an active act of creation. It is one of the most powerful and practical ways to shape your reality and align your material world with your spiritual values. We are conditioned to be unconscious consumers. We are swayed by clever marketing, by the desire for social status, by the fleeting dopamine hit of a new purchase. This is mindless spending. It often leaves us feeling empty, with a closet full of things we don't need and a quiet sense of regret. It is a leakage of our precious life force energy. Soul-aligned spending is the antidote. It is mindful, intentional, and deeply personal. It is the practice of running every potential purchase through what I call the value filter. Before you spend your energy on any non-essential item or service, you must pause and ask yourself a series of questions. Alignment. Does this purchase align with my highest values? Values like health, community, creativity, sustainability, education, etc. Energy. Does the thought of this purchase make me feel expansive and energized or contractive and anxious? Intention. Am I buying this to fill an emotional void or to genuinely add value and joy to my life? Resonance. Do I want to support the entity I'm giving this energy to? Do their values resonate with mine? This is not about restriction. It is about intention. It's about shifting your focus from "what can I get?" to "what am I creating with this exchange?" I remember a distinct turning point in my own journey with this. I needed a new bookshelf. The easy option was to go to a massive, faceless big-box store and buy a cheap particle board unit that would do the job. It was practical. It was efficient. But as I considered it, I felt that familiar, subtle feeling of contraction. It felt lifeless. Then I remembered a local woodworker, a man who ran a small shop in my town. His pieces were more expensive, yes. The exchange would require more of my financial energy. But I went to his workshop and I could smell the fresh sawdust. He showed me the reclaimed wood he used, telling me the story of where it came from. We talked about the design. The entire experience was imbued with craftsmanship, passion, and human connection. When I paid him, I felt an immense sense of joy and expansion. I wasn't just buying a bookshelf. I was casting a vote for artistry, for sustainability, for my local economy, for a man living his purpose. Now that bookshelf sits in my office. It doesn't just hold books. It holds a story. It holds a beautiful, resonant energy. It was a soul-aligned purchase. I know what some of you may be thinking. Elias, that sounds lovely, but it's a privilege. I'm just trying to make ends meet, and I hear that. This principle is not about judging your choices or demanding that you only buy expensive, artisan goods. It is a principle of awareness that can be applied at any financial level. It can be the choice between a bag of processed chips and fresh fruit. It can be the choice between buying a new book from a massive online conglomerate or ordering it from your local independent bookstore. It can be the choice to repair a beloved item instead of throwing it away and buying a new one. It is about bringing consciousness to the small daily decisions that make up the fabric of your life. And this principle extends to how you spend money on yourself. For many spiritual people, there is a deep-seated guilt around investing in their own pleasure, comfort, and growth. We will happily spend on others, but to spend on a massage, a course, or an experience just for us feels selfish. This is a residue of the myth of separation. You are your greatest asset. Investing in your own well-being, joy, and education is not an expense. It is a critical investment in the steward. It fills your cup so that you may continue to give from a place of overflow, not depletion. When you consistently practice soul-aligned spending, your life begins to change. You find yourself surrounded by things that you love, things that hold meaning and positive energy. You feel a deep sense of integrity because your actions are in harmony with your beliefs. You plug the energetic leaks in your financial life, and you will be amazed at how much more prosperous you feel, even if your income hasn't changed. Because you are no longer just a consumer. You are a conscious creator, and this act of conscious creation finds its most powerful long-term expression not just in how we spend, but in how we plant the seeds for our future. This brings us to the alchemy of investing. Principle 7, the alchemy of ethical and spiritual investing. The word investing can be a loaded one for many on a spiritual path. It can conjure images of Wall Street greed, of ruthless competition, of a complex and predatory system that feels completely at odds with a heart-centered life. Many feel a deep sense of conflict, believing that to participate in the financial markets is to somehow sell out or compromise their values. This resistance, while understandable, stems from a misunderstanding of what investing truly is at its core energetic level. The 7th principle of sacred stewardship is to reframe investing from a purely financial transaction into a profound spiritual practice. At its essence, investing is the act of directing your stored life force energy, capital, toward a future you believe in. It is the ultimate expression of long-term optimism. It is the planting of seeds today in the faith that they will grow into the mighty trees of tomorrow, providing shade and fruit for years to come. The question is not if you should invest, but what kind of future are you investing in? Consider a client of mine, a woman named Anya, who was a passionate environmental activist. She had managed to save a respectable amount of money, but it was sitting in a low-interest savings account, losing value to inflation every year. When I asked her about investing, she recoiled. "I can't," she said. "The stock market is full of companies that are destroying the planet. Oil companies, fast fashion, industrial agriculture. Putting my money there would feel like a deep betrayal of everything I stand for." Her conflict was real and valid. She was caught between her desire for financial growth and her soul's integrity. For her, the path forward was a revelation called ESG and impact investing. ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance, a framework for investing in companies that are committed to positive change. Companies focused on renewable energy, sustainable products, fair labor practices, and ethical leadership. Anya's entire world opened up. She realized she didn't have to choose between her values and her wealth. She could use her wealth to support her values. She began to research companies that were actively working on solutions to the problems she cared about most. Her investment portfolio became a direct extension of her activism. She was no longer just protesting the old, broken systems. She was actively funding the creation of the new ones. Her money was no longer sitting stagnant in a bank. It was out in the world, doing good work on her behalf and generating an abundant return in the process. This is the alchemy of spiritual investing. It requires you to expand your definition of return on investment. A conscious steward looks for a triple bottom line: financial return. Yes, the investment should have the potential to grow your capital and build your wealth. This is the practical foundation. Ethical return. The investment must align with your moral compass. It should not cause harm and should ideally contribute positively to society and the planet. Spiritual return. The investment should give you a sense of purpose and integrity. It should feel expansive and joyful to know that your energy is supporting this cause or company. This is a far cry from the frantic, fear-based day trading that dominates the media's portrayal of the market. This is patience capital. It is the understanding that true wealth is built slowly, intentionally, by investing in quality, value, and vision for the long term. It is a partnership with time and with the forces of growth and innovation that align with your spirit. This practice begins with introspection. Ask yourself, what future do I want to help create? What problems in the world do I most want to solve? Is it climate change? Is it education? Is it health and wellness? Is it technological innovation that connects humanity? Your answers to these questions become the blueprint for your investment strategy. You begin to see your portfolio not as a random collection of ticker symbols, but as a vibrant, living ecosystem of your highest intentions for the world. And I want to validate that. If this world feels new or intimidating, that's perfectly normal. The most important first step is not to become an expert overnight, but simply to shift your consciousness. To start seeing your capital not as a hoard to be protected, but as a powerful force for creation to be directed. Educate yourself, seek guidance from advisors who understand this philosophy, and start small. Because when your investments are aligned with your soul, your wealth grows with a sense of purpose. It is no longer just money. It is a testament to your faith in the future. But as you begin to build this sacred container of wealth, you will quickly discover that there are external forces that can threaten it. This requires us to learn the art of setting powerful boundaries. This is the focus of our 8th principle, Principle 8, Energetic Boundaries for Financial Sovereignty. As your consciousness shifts and your financial life begins to blossom, a new challenge will inevitably arise. Your growing abundance, like a beautiful garden, will begin to attract attention. And not all of that attention will be supportive of your continued growth. You will encounter friends with can't-miss business ideas. You will have family members who suddenly see you as the solution to their chronic financial mismanagement. You will be presented with requests, demands, and sob stories that pull at your heartstrings and test your resolve. If you do not learn to build a strong, energetic fence around your garden, you will find that your precious resources, your time, your energy, and your money are constantly being nibbled away by others. This is why the 8th principle is so critical. You must cultivate fierce energetic boundaries to protect your financial sovereignty. Financial sovereignty is the state of having full authority and control over your own financial life, free from the undue influence or control of others. And for kind, spiritual, and empathetic people, this can be one of the hardest principles to master. We are natural givers. We want to help. We hate to see others suffer. And so the word no can feel like a betrayal of our very nature. It can be accompanied by waves of guilt, fear of being disliked, and the story that we are being selfish. Let us be very clear. A boundary is not a wall to keep people out. It is a gate that you control, allowing you to choose what energy you let in and what energy you send out. Generosity that comes from a place of sovereign choice is a beautiful, expansive act. Giving that comes from a place of guilt, obligation, or a desire to people please is an energetic leak that will drain you dry. I remember a client, let's call her Isabella, who was the designated family bank. She was responsible and had built a successful business, while several of her relatives were in a constant state of financial drama. Every few months there would be another crisis, another request for a loan that was never repaid. Isabella loved her family deeply, but she was exhausted, resentful, and her own financial goals were constantly being sidelined. She was pouring her life force into containers that had holes in the bottom. Her transformation began when we worked on distinguishing between compassionate support and enabling destructive patterns. We came to understand that her constant bailouts were not actually helping her family. They were preventing them from ever learning to stand on their own feet and face the consequences of their own choices. Her help had become a form of harm. The hardest thing she ever had to do was learn to say no with love. We role-played it. The next time a request came, instead of writing a check, she said, "I love you so much, and it pains me to see you struggling. While I can't give you money, I'm happy to sit down with you and help you create a budget, or help you find a financial counselor. I am willing to invest my time in helping you build the skills to solve this for good." The initial reaction was anger. She was accused of being selfish, of having changed. It was incredibly painful for her. But she held her boundary, and over time, something miraculous happened. One of her relatives, forced to find another way, actually took her up on the offer to create a budget. It was the first step on a long road to their own financial sovereignty. Isabella's boundary wasn't an act of rejection. It was an act of profound love that forced a necessary change. Your financial boundaries are a sacred contract with yourself. Here are the key areas where you must be vigilant. Unsolicited advice. Learn to smile and say, "Thank you for your perspective. I'll take that into consideration," without feeling the need to defend your own financial philosophy. Lending money. Create a clear personal policy. A good one is, "I do not lend money to friends or family. I only give it as a gift, with no expectation of return, and only when I can do so without harming my own financial well-being." This removes all ambiguity. Guilt-driven giving. Before giving, check in with your body. Does it feel expansive and joyful, or does it feel heavy and contractive, born of obligation? Trust your body's wisdom, your time and energy, your most precious assets. Saying no to a project, a client, or a commitment that doesn't feel aligned is a critical financial boundary. Setting these boundaries is an act of self-respect. It sends a powerful message to the universe that you value the resources you have been entrusted with. It declares that you are a responsible steward, not a leaky bucket. And when the universe sees that your container is strong and well protected, it knows it can trust you with more to fill it. Protecting this container is an ongoing practice, and so is the daily work of tuning the energy within the container. This brings us to our 9th principle, the daily rituals that maintain your abundance frequency. Principle 9. The daily rituals of abundance. Frequency prosperity is not a destination you arrive at one day. It is not an award you are given for hard work. It is a vibrational state of being. It is a frequency. And like a radio station, if you are not tuned to it, you will only hear static. You can have all the right strategies, the most aligned investments, and the strongest boundaries. But if your dominant daily frequency is one of lack, worry, and fear, you will constantly struggle. Your energy will be working against your actions. This is why the 9th principle is the glue that holds all the others together. You must commit to simple, consistent daily rituals that deliberately tune your consciousness to the frequency of abundance. The state of the world trains us for the opposite. We wake up, and the first thing we do is reach for our phones. We are immediately flooded with news of crisis, with emails demanding our attention, with social media feeds designed to make us feel like we are not enough. Within the first 5 minutes of being awake, we have tuned our frequency to scarcity, urgency, and comparison. And then we wonder why our day feels like an uphill battle. An alchemist does not leave their energetic state to chance. They cultivate it with the same discipline and care that a master gardener tends to their most prized plants. I once found myself in a period of intense business stress. A major project had failed, cash flow was tight, and I was feeling the cold grip of fear every morning. My mind was a whirlwind of what-ifs. I realized my default frequency had drifted deep into the static of scarcity. My actions were becoming frantic and reactive. I was in hustle mode. I knew I had to interrupt the pattern. So I made a simple commitment, which I call the first and last 5 rule. I promised myself that for the first 5 minutes of every day, before my feet even touched the floor, and for the last 5 minutes of every day, after the lights were out, I would not allow my mind to touch a problem. Instead, I would dedicate that time exclusively to tuning my frequency. In the morning, I would lie in bed and begin a gratitude scan. I would start with the simple things. Thank you for the air in my lungs. Thank you for this comfortable bed. Thank you for the warmth of these blankets. Then I would expand it. Thank you for the clients who value my work. Thank you for the technology that allows me to connect with people. Thank you for the lessons I am learning from my current challenges. I would not get out of bed until I could feel a genuine shift in my body, a softening, an opening, a sense of peace. In the evening, I would do a similar practice, but this time I would focus on visualizing the feeling of my desired outcomes. I wouldn't just see a healthier bank balance. I would try to feel the sense of freedom, security, and peace that it would bring. I would feel the joy of being able to give generously, the excitement of starting a new aligned project. I was marinating my subconscious mind in the feeling of abundance as I drifted off to sleep. It took about a week of consistent practice, but the change was undeniable. The panic subsided. Creative solutions to my business problems began to appear seemingly out of nowhere. I started acting from a place of calm clarity, not fear. I hadn't changed my external circumstances yet, but by changing my internal frequency, the external circumstances began to rearrange themselves around my new vibration. This is the power of daily ritual. Consistency is far more important than intensity. A 5-minute practice done with focused intention every single day is infinitely more powerful than a 2-hour meditation done once a month when you're in crisis. Here are some rituals you can weave into your life. Gratitude journaling. Write down 3 to 5 things you are genuinely grateful for. specifically related to the prosperity already in your life. A roof over your head, food in the fridge, a skill you possess. Affirmations with feeling. Don't just repeat empty words. Choose an affirmation like, "I am a powerful and worthy steward of wealth," and say it while looking at yourself in the mirror until you can actually feel the truth of it in your cells. The Abundance Walk. Go for a walk with the sole intention of noticing the abundance of nature, the countless leaves on a tree, the blades of grass, the endless sky. Remind yourself that the universe operates from a state of infinite supply, not lack. Choose the rituals that resonate with you, but choose them and commit to them. They are your daily energetic hygiene. They are how you keep your radio dial firmly tuned to the clear, beautiful signal of prosperity. But even with the best rituals, life will inevitably present us with challenges. A market downturn, a lost client, an unexpected expense. How do we maintain our frequency when the storm hits? How do we find the opportunity in the obstacle? This is the ultimate test of the alchemist and the heart of our 10th principle. Principle 10. Transforming financial lead into spiritual gold life is a master teacher, and its curriculum is filled with unexpected tests. No matter how conscious you become, no matter how aligned your actions, you will encounter financial challenges. You will face setbacks, losses, and periods of contraction. The unawakened consciousness views these events as punishments, a sign of failure, proof that the universe is cruel or that you are simply not destined for prosperity. This perspective leads to fear, despair, and victimhood. It is an energetic state that only attracts more of the same. The alchemist, however, sees these events through a different lens. The 10th and perhaps most advanced principle of sacred stewardship is this: every financial challenge is an alchemical opportunity in disguise. It is not a punishment. It is a purification. It is the universe presenting you with a lump of dense, heavy lead and inviting you to find the gold hidden within it. The challenges are the fire of the alchemical furnace. They are designed to burn away what is no longer serving you, a limiting belief, a misaligned strategy, an attachment to a specific outcome, a place where you have been playing small. The fire is hot, it is uncomfortable, and sometimes it is painful. But its purpose is always to refine, to strengthen, and to reveal the pure essence of your own power. I think of a brilliant entrepreneur I knew who built a business from the ground up. It was his identity. He poured his life into it. And then, due to a sudden shift in the market, he lost everything. It was a devastating blow that left him not just broke, but shattered. For months he was lost in a fog of grief and shame. He saw it as the ultimate failure. His alchemical moment came when he was at his absolute lowest point. He had nothing left to lose, so he finally asked himself a different kind of question. Not why did this happen to me, but a question I call the alchemical question. What was this sent to teach me? He sat with that question for days, and the answers began to emerge, slowly at first, then like a flood. He realized his entire identity had been fused with his business, leaving no room for his true self. He realized he had been driven by a desperate need for external validation, not by genuine purpose. He realized he had built a business that was successful, but one that didn't truly make him happy. The fire had burned away a false identity. It had reduced him to his essence. And from that empty, purified space, he began to build again. But this time he built differently. He built a smaller, more nimble business centered around his true passion, teaching. It made less money in the beginning, but for the first time in his life, he felt authentic, joyful, and free. Within a few years, his new soul-aligned business had far surpassed the financial success of his old one, but he barely noticed. He was no longer chasing the money. He was living his purpose, and the money was a natural byproduct. His greatest financial disaster was, in truth, his greatest spiritual gift. It was the lead that, when put through the fire, revealed the purest gold of his true calling. This is the work you are called to do when you face your own financial furnaces. When the unexpected bill arrives, when the client leaves, when the investment sours, you must allow yourself to feel the human emotions of fear or disappointment. Do not suppress them, but do not dwell there. Once the initial emotional wave has passed, you must step into the role of the alchemist and ask the questions. What outdated belief is this situation forcing me to confront? What skill is this challenge demanding that I develop? Patience? Resilience? Creativity? Where is this setback redirecting my path for my own highest good? How can I emerge from this fire stronger, wiser, and more aligned than before? Even debt, that source of so much shame, can be alchemized. Instead of seeing it as a mark of failure, reframe it as an investment you made in a life lesson. Thank the debt for the wisdom it taught you, perhaps about impulsivity or about the importance of having a cash reserve. Then create a conscious plan to honor that energetic exchange, paying it off not with resentment, but with the quiet dignity of someone who has integrated their lessons. This principle is the ultimate expression of trust in the universe. It is the unwavering faith that everything is happening for your growth and evolution. When you can genuinely meet your challenges with this energy, you become unstoppable. You are no longer at the mercy of circumstance. You are a conscious co-creator who uses all of life's ingredients, both bitter and sweet, to create the elixir of your own becoming. And this becoming, this evolution, is a journey toward a specific destination, the embodiment of the steward your wealth has been waiting for. This is our next principle. Principle 11. Becoming the steward. Your wealth awaits. There is a subtle but profound law of the universe that is often overlooked in the world of manifestation. The universe, in its infinite intelligence, does not entrust vast resources to a container that is not prepared to hold them. A torrential downpour into a tiny cracked cup will only create a mess and waste the precious water. The wealth you desire is not just waiting for you to want it enough. It is waiting for you to become the person who can handle it. The 11th principle is about identity-level transformation. You must embody the consciousness and character and competence of the wealthy steward you wish to be. Long before the evidence appears in your bank account, many people operate under the if-then illusion. If I had more money, then I would be more generous. If I had more money, then I would learn how to manage it properly. If I had more money, then I would feel secure and confident. The alchemical truth is the exact opposite. It is a be-do-have model. You must first be the generous, competent, and confident person. From that state of being, you will do the things such a person would do. And as a natural result, you will have what such a person has. The universe is a wise investor. Before it allocates significant capital to you, it is watching. Is this person a responsible steward of the small amount of energy they currently have? Do they honor their commitments? Do they act with integrity? Do they treat the resources they have, whether it's $1 or 1 million, with respect and consciousness? Let's consider the archetypes of Sarah and David. Sarah is constantly affirming for more money. She creates vision boards filled with mansions and luxury cars. She spends her days chasing new opportunities, always looking for the next big break. But her inner world is in chaos. She is irresponsible with the money she currently has. Her finances are disorganized. And her subconscious energy screams, "I am not worthy of this." She is trying to acquire wealth, but she has not become a wealthy person in her consciousness. So the universe withholds the torrential downpour because it knows her cup is not ready. David, on the other hand, focuses his energy differently. His goal is not to get money, but to become a person of immense value and integrity. He dedicates himself to mastering his craft. He treats the small amount of money he has with profound respect, managing it diligently through his sacred money date. He is generous with his time and his knowledge, even when his bank account is modest. He invests in his own financial education, learning the principles of wealth creation before the wealth arrives. He is, in every sense, acting as if. He is embodying the identity of a conscious, wealthy steward. Whom would you, as a wise investor, choose to back? The answer is obvious, and the universe is no different. This principle calls you to a radical practice of self-inquiry. Ask yourself, who is the version of me that effortlessly manages the level of wealth I desire? How do they think? What are their daily habits? How do they handle challenges? What is their relationship to giving and receiving? How do they value themselves and their time? Your answers become your roadmap for personal evolution. Your work is to close the gap between the person you are today and the person you have just described. This is not about faking it till you make it. That implies a sense of fraudulence. This is about embodying it until it becomes you. It is an authentic process of stepping into your next level of identity. It starts with the small things. It's handling the $10 in your wallet with the same respect you would handle 10,000. It's showing up on time for appointments, demonstrating that you value your own energy and that of others. It's keeping your promises, both to yourself and to others, building a track record of integrity. It's choosing to respond to a setback with the calm confidence of your future self, rather than the panic of your past self. Every time you make a choice that is in alignment with the identity of the conscious steward, you are sending a powerful signal to the universe. I am ready. My container is strong. The vessel has been prepared. You are becoming the person your wealth is looking for. You are becoming the person who doesn't just attract abundance, but can sustain it, grow it, and use it as a powerful force for good in the world. And as you fully step into this identity, you find that all 12 principles we have discussed begin to merge. They are no longer separate concepts to be remembered, but a single integrated way of being. This is the final step, the integration of a sacred financial life. Conclusion: the integration of a sacred financial life. And so, we arrive at the end of our journey through these 12 principles, but at the true beginning of your life as a conscious steward. We began by understanding that money is merely a mirror of our inner world. We dismantled the myth that separates the sacred from the secular, and we learned the profound power of the forgiveness ledger to release the shame that has held us captive. We have redefined our relationship with action, choosing inspired flow over anxious hustle. We have designed our own financial sanctuaries, transforming management into ritual. We've committed to aligning our spending and our investments with our soul's deepest values, and we have learned to set firm, energetic boundaries to protect our sovereignty. Through daily practice, we tune our frequency to abundance. We alchemize the lead of our fears into the gold of our potential. And we step fully into the role of the steward our wealth has been waiting for. These principles are not just ideas to be understood. They are truths to be embodied. This is not a one-time fix, but a lifelong practice. There will be days when old fears resurface. There will be moments when the reflection in the mirror is not what you wish to see. In those moments, do not despair. See it as a gift, an invitation to go deeper. To apply these principles with even greater compassion and wisdom, you now hold the alchemical keys. The conflict you once felt between your spirit and your wealth was an illusion. In truth, they are two wings of the same bird, designed to work in harmony to help you soar. Your wealth is not a distraction from your purpose. It is a powerful tool to amplify it. It is the fuel for your contribution to the world. You are the alchemist. You have the power to transform every transaction into a sacred act, every financial decision into an expression of your highest self. As our time together concludes, your journey continues. To support you on this path, I have created a dedicated space for you to explore. To your left, you will find the playlist, The Alchemist's Treasury. It's filled with more practical strategies to help you apply these principles in the real world. And to your right, I have personally selected our guide, The 10 Alchemical Steps to Build Spiritually Aligned Multiple Income Streams for Lasting Wealth, as the perfect next step to begin creating the very energy we have discussed stewarding today. Choose the path that calls to you. And remember to subscribe so that we may continue this journey together. This is Elias Vance, reminding you, abundance is not something you acquire. It is something you become.